And we are live. I love this comment already. Ron Paul, it's happening gif. It is happening. I'm so excited. I am live with the red-headed libertarian, aka Josie, aka the pie goddess, aka queen of all things cheekbone and bone structure and red hair. I'm so excited to be going
Thank
live
you
with you.
for having me.
You took a break from going on shows and stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to be one of the first shows you've been on since you've been back, since you've been banned off of Twitter.
Mhm.
First of all, tell the people where you can find your new Twitter, because I don't think everybody knows yet.
Sure. My new Twitter, I reversed it from my old Twitter. So instead of TRHL official, it's official TRHL, the redheaded libertarian.
So I never really got the reason. I don't know if there was a reason, but was there an official reason that you got banned? Did they tell you anything?
No, I just tried to log on one day and it was like, oh, you're suspended. And I'm like, but it's like, it's not permanent. You can appeal this, if you think there was a mistake or whatever. And so I was like, okay. So I did the appeal process. I did it several times, and it's a few times, and a few times they got back to me and said, oh, well, we'll give you an answer in 10 business days. And they just never got back to me. And so I check on my case and be like, oh, this case is no longer exists. So I'd have to reappeal again. It's like they kept throwing it away every time I would appeal it. So, right, I have an active case right now. It's still sitting in limbo. I don't know what is, if anything, is ever going to happen to it. But I'm building my new page, and I got over 2,000 followers now in the last 72 hours. I guess I did a couple of
Yeah.
tweets, just kind of like blindsided me. And one of them's almost going viral, I think. But never got a reason, just banned, and Twitter said at a congressional hearing that they always give reasons, but
That's like my worst nightmare. One day I'm just gonna try to log on and my account's just not gonna be there anymore, and there's nothing I can do about
it's a
it.
nightmare. It was really hard to like. I was blindsided, because
Yeah.
I mean, I used to say I'm the least controversial person on Twitter, because it's like I make pies and talk about my cat, and
Yeah.
I don't get it. But
I don't think you said you literally. I've never seen you be so, like controversial ever. I feel like people act like you're very controversial, like oh, like the evil, the redheaded libertarian, and I'm like, what did she even say that
what
was
it
that
comes
bad
down
though?
to, the anarchists don't like me. It's because I'm a minarchist. So I've kind
But
of
they have so much smoke. They got so much smoke from minarchists. I'm like, we literally have the entire government made up of authoritarian pieces of shit, and everyone's just fine voting them in again and again. And y'all have smoke for the minarchists who agree with you on like 90%
90%
of the
of stuff.
topics.
The only place we don't agree on is justice and the courts, and some on police, and that's the only places that minarchists and anarchists are different. And I've explained, like, I'm sort of autistic when it comes to the Constitution and stuff. So
Okay.
I've had to break stuff down. I've explained threads and stuff, and I've made a lot of them really mad because I've talked about the case law of why things are the way they are. But they've spoken about it like, oh my God, are you endorsing this? And I'm like, I'm just telling you what it's like. I'm just explaining why this is the way that it is. Yeah. So anyway, Twitter never got a reason, just kind of, disappeared off it. And now I'm back, and we're just going to try to do it again, I guess. I think it got caught up in some kind of algorithm where they were deleting a bunch of libertarians, because I know there were like two other bigger
I
libertarians.
think I'm next. I genuinely think I'm next because over on the more like conservative side of Twitter, like black conservative side of
Uh-huh.
Twitter, Sharice Lane got banned, Angela Stanton King got
I
banned,
heard about that one.
Camellia got banned, and she was never really controversial. She just talked about like being pro-life, and she wasn't even like a staunch Republican or hardcore MAGA. Not honestly, none of these people are like hardcore MAGA. They would just consistently talk about like pro-life issues and call out basically, Hollywood pedophiles and shit, which should not be partisan, which should be a very non-controversial stance. But all three of those black conservative women with really large accounts got banned within like a week. So now I feel like I'm next.
Yeah.
And then me being intersected with Liberty Twitter very often, I feel like that puts me to the top of the list, because you got a bunch of other libertarians got. I don't know what's happening.
I know I'd actually gotten rid of libertarian in my name for a while because I thought that could be a target like when they were going through the mass bans of people, like around January 6th, they're just banning people. And so I
I
actually,
lost 10,000 followers after
yeah.
January
Oh
6th.
God. Yeah. I
It
actually
was a
had a
lot.
tracker at that time, and I've been shadow banned from election day to March 4th. And the next day, March 5th, is when I lost my account. So I like actually came off shadow ban. I'm like, oh my God, I'm off shadow ban. So in the time I was shadow banned, I lost 34,000 followers. And that's a mix of, like, every time somebody would follow me, Twitter would kick somebody off. So I was on someone's radar starting at the election, and I just never could get off of it.
Did you talk about insurrection a lot? Because I barely ever did, purposely, because I thought if I did talk about it, then I would get
yeah,
got.
I talked about it all the time, and I talked about it factually, and just like,
See,
here
that's
are
why.
the facts, and that definitely set something off. I mean, this is not good what we're going through right now with the censorship.
No, it's not. And I'm like having a hard time trying to like diversify my platform. Like I'm trying to get people to come over to YouTube, but everyone knows that the Twitter to YouTube pipeline really, really, really sucks.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't translate well. And I'm not the type of person to be like, oh, I'm shadow banned like anytime one of my posts doesn't take off, because like I'm like, maybe that post just sucked.
Yeah.
But I do think I'm a little bit shadow banned on YouTube because I don't feel like my content's that bad. I feel like I have very interesting guests on. Maybe I'm not that interesting, but I have interesting guests on. And I'm like, why am I at 3K? I feel like I've been stuck here for a long time. It's unacceptable. I hate
There's
it.
something going on, because I'm at 3K and I don't even use YouTube hardly. Like, but I have 3,000 followers on it. I post maybe once a month.
I need to go. What do you post on there?
Just I post some Liberty stuff. I used to do these 1-minute hot takes, and I take like whatever the thing everybody was talking about. So I take that thing and I say, here's my 1-minute like explanation or opinion on it. So I've done.
I'm gonna steal that idea, because
it was. I mean, it was quick. People are like, all right, you know what? I kind of want to know what's going on right now. Just give it to me straight right now, just facts. And so I would do those, and then I put like my ukulele stuff on there. I put my pie making videos on there. It's just kind of like, here's everything, Josie. Throw it all in one place. All the videos.
I love that. I think that's why people like you and why people refollowed you from your old account, is because a lot of like these big like fucking e-girl accounts or whatever, they don't show any type of personality. You don't know what's going on in their life, and you post like the pies, you post your cat. I see I have a super chat about your cat. That's true. We don't deserve him. Thank you for the super chat.
Right there.
Yay!
Yeah.
He's just chilling. He's just chilling in the back.
Yeah. So I try to, but that's like just who I am as a person, and I'm approachable, and I'm, I have the charisma, and I like to engage with people. It's my favorite part. I've actually had to cut back engaging on people behind the shadow ban because I kept getting shadow banned for that. So I can only like what they say, and then I'll DM them sometimes and explain, like, an answer if they have a question or something, because it's so frustrating to kind of, try to reach everybody when you keep getting shadow banned. So
yeah, that's really frustrating. But let's go ahead and jump into what we kind of advertise. I really want to talk about the cultural stuff first, because that's a really pressing issue.
Yep.
And mainly how libertarians can participate in like the quote unquote culture war or whatever. And what's the main thing going on in culture now, which is, I mean, everyone's buzzing about it's critical race theory. I personally, not an expert in it, don't know that much about it. I haven't read any critical race theory papers or anything, but you have. So let's talk about it.
All right. Well, like I said earlier, my goal is to make, because I know a lot of people who they know what it is, but they don't know what it is. It's just hard to put into words what it is, because there's so many different components, and it's kind of a different language. So it's like, racism now has like 25 different meanings. It's like that, but with everything. So in order to understand critical race theory, we need to understand the proponents of it. And then we need to be able to look at it objectively from there. And in order to do that, you got to read their bullshit. Okay. Like, I'm sorry, I can't say that. But you got to read the crap. Right? You got to just sift through it with your muck boots and read it all out. So this will give you some kind of semblance of parameters, some kind of semblance of what the heck are they talking about. So in the very simplest terms, what they think it is, or what they claim it is a critical examination of the law as it intersects with race. Now, this is like, oh, cool. This is something we can all get behind, right? Like I was saying with, Antifa, oh, they're against fascism, you know, great.
Yeah.
Planned Parenthood,
Sure.
oh, they Planned Parenthoods, awesome. This is their shtick. This is what they do. They give you something everybody can get behind, and then they just obliterate it, and they grift off it, and it divides the country. And, you know, the minute, and you can't call it out, because if you call it out, then you oppose it. Like, what do you mean you don't want to talk about race and law?
I hate that.
Yeah.
I hate that because they do. What do you mean you're not anti-fascist? What do you mean? Are you a fascist?
It's right there in the name, and it's so condescending. Joanne Reed is the worst at it. She actually did a whole thing. She's like, "Oh, well, if you don't want critical race theory, I guess you want Confederate race theory." And it's like, shut up,
bro.
Like, are you a thing? Can you just stop? That woman is the worst. All right, so critical race theory has 5 major tenets. All right, and I'm just gonna preface this by saying cultural Marxism has 4 major tenets. Okay. So we'll start there. So the first tenet is the notion that racism is normal. It's the first tenet of critical race theory, is that racism is normal. So in my research, this idea criticizes color blindness and meritocracy, which are 2 things that Martin Luther King actually amplified, as a means for the oppressors or the status quo. Now, when I say oppressors and status quo going forward, I mean white people, because that's what it means in critical race theory. It's one of those shift the word things. So it's a means for their oppressors to keep power. This is what they claim, not what I'm saying. I'm not endorsing this. All right. So by claiming, so the oppressors, when they say that they're for color blindness and meritocracy, they say this, and it claims that, like, they have a claim to neutrality by saying this. So it removes them from the racial injustices. And it does it with a clear conscience because of meritocracy. So this tenet also regards meritocracy as inherently racist, and it argues for the redistribution of wealth. Where have we heard that before? The first.
Oh, I don't know.
All right. So you're seeing how it starts to.
Yeah.
So the next tenet is the idea of interest convergence. All right. So in my research, this idea claims that the status quo, white people, will only promote racial justice when it's in their own interests. They describe this with the same connotations as cultural Marxists describe capitalism, as a one-sided transaction. What's the second tenet of Marxism? Abolish capitalism. You see where this is going?
Yeah, I see where it's going.
Right? Yeah, it's like this much, this close, this quick. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So the third tenet is that race is a social construct. So in my research, this tenet amplifies decades old court cases that established race as a social construct, when really they're old, terrible cases that have all been overturned because we've progressed as humans. So the first one that they cite is Dred Scott versus Sanford, which is 1857. And they claimed, I'm quoting, "Negroes were not citizens," was the quote from the case.
Okay, I'm just saying someone's going to clip that and it's going to make it.
Someone's going to clip it. I know.
The evil libertarian.
She's like, "Oh my God, look what she said this time." All right. So that's the quote. It's from Dred Scott versus Sanford, 1857. It's not from Josie. All right. That was so that was that. So, and then they also cite the 1935 legislation that denied Social Security numbers to minorities. Also the Housing Acts, the mortgage loans, everything in the 30s that was, where they were trying to undo the slavery and trying to undo everything that was tied with it at that point, and happened slowly over time. But these are the things that they cite. They cite the 1 drop Jim Crow law, which says 1 drop of blood means that you're black. And each of these have been repealed. However, this is where I got like, hold on a minute, back up 1 sec. So this is how they established the construct. They're saying, all right, essentially race is a construct, we're not different at all. Like, they made us different, and here's how they did it. They established this, right? But at the same time, and it's like, these are all ugly stains. Like, these are terrible things that happen in America. And I'm really glad that we've.
Thank you for clarifying, because somebody, I swear to God, it's going to be on Twitter later. Josie's a racist, white supremacist who defends, segregation and Jim Crow.
Just like, it's like you thank God if you don't take anything personally, like it's what you are, you know who you are. All right. So, this whole thing, like, there's no social, like race is a social construct, period, like this is totally made up. But at the same time, the first tenant, it denounces color blindness. So these two tenets contradict each other. So the first is saying you can't see race, but then the third is saying race is an illusion. So which is it? So already the first and third tenets are kind of a contradiction of each other.
My thing on that is I think the way we think about race is probably a social construct, but race itself isn't a social construct. There's a biological reason for people who have different, skin pigmentations and different, hair types and skin types and whatever the fuck. That part's not a social construct. But in my experience, whenever I've talked to someone who claims to be colorblind, it's a lie. Like you clearly see color. And I like Martin Luther King's version of colorblindness, where he acknowledges that he wants black and white together. But I feel like there's a weird form of conservative colorblindness where it's like, you can't say you're black. Like, don't say you're a black conservative. I got that today. Someone was like, don't say you're a black conservative, just say you're conservative. And I was like, well, colorblindness isn't really helping the issue, especially when I'm speaking on issues that pertain to black people. Like, I don't think acting like race is not an issue at all should be what people think colorblindness is. But I feel like that's a really weird thing on the right, where that's a misconception, I guess.
That's interesting. I hadn't heard that, but
it's just like I have like this like knee-jerk reaction to people calling themselves colorblind, because I'm like, I know you're not colorblind, like you see race. And I feel like a lot of people who say, oh, I'm colorblind, if you scroll through their timeline, they're like, oh, black culture is ruining America, black on black crime, Cardi B needs to stop ruining America with her blackness. I'm like, bro, I know you're not colorblind.
Really projected. It's like one of those things like Barbara Streisand effect. So like, oh no, I totally am not. And then you look, like, yeah, you are. So it's kind of a thing that people hide behind. When I think of colorblindness, I think of kids.
Like, I mean, kids are not racist. White kids are not born racist. Black kids are not born racist. It's racism is taught. And it's so evident when you look at how kids literally, like young kids in elementary school, literally have no racial issues until they're old enough to be taught by their parents or outside influences to be racist or to fear white people or whatever the fuck. They're fine. They get along great. I never had any issues with racism as a kid in kindergarten, first grade. Like I never faced any racism. It was only when I got to high school that kids started being racist, but it wasn't a thing when we didn't know what the fuck race was or racism was.
Yeah. No, I totally understand that. The way I deal with racism is like, I'm Native American. I'm a quarter Native American. I have 3 different tribes, and I'm also Scottish, and that's what I look Scottish. I'm Scottish, like you look at me.
I feel like you have like the facial features of Native American. If you were to
put me through like a black and white filter and take away my green eyes,
exactly, I could see it.
Totally be able to see it, So my thing is that, well, since you're white passing, you're not allowed to be Native. And
Can I talk about how much I hate the term white passing?
Yeah, like, I'm sorry, like what?
Like it was usually used to mix people to try to get them to pick. To just identify as white. And it's funny because like I've been called white passing before. I'm like, first of all, no the fuck I'm not. Second of all, even if I was, that would not diminish me being mixed or having black family or descending from black people like that. And you can, if you trace your heritage to Native Americans or Native American tribes, then what the fuck? Like, then you're Native American. I mean, this is not some Elizabeth Warren shit where you're like 0.001% Native, right?
I know, right? And you get tenured at Harvard because of it.
Oh yeah, that was a whole thing that happened.
That's really bad what she did. It upsets tribal elders and that sort of. It's really bad what she did. And they see it, and all she had to do was, no, I'm sorry, I just didn't know. That I was,
even though she told a whole story about how her parents had to elope because her family was racist, even though her mom was literally not Native American, like not at all.
Yeah, she just lied and lied, but that's what politicians do. They lie. And she was Harvard's first Native American hire, and it's like, are you kidding me? And she's like, well, I have high cheekbones, and I'm like, no, you don't, bitch.
Josie, she's just white passing. Leave her alone.
She's just white passing. The thing that's about that is like the same people who say this are like, you inherit the trauma from what your ancestors went through. So like black people inherit the trauma of slavery, and Native Americans inherit the trauma of massacres,
genocide.
genocide, and that sort of thing. And but it's like all of a sudden when you're white passing, no, you didn't inherit any of it.
No, you have privilege.
Like,
you have white privilege.
Yeah, you have white privilege. So it doesn't mean you have any scars, like you didn't inherit these scars because you look white. It's a mess. But anyway,
that is the most ridiculous thing ever.
It is. So the third tenet, social construct, it's pretty much saying, where I relate that the communism is proletariat versus bourgeois. It's dividing people. These are the bad people, these are the good people. And if you don't know what that is, it's communist speak from the manifesto. The bourgeois are like the rich, wealthy classes. The rich, wealthy class.
Through this CRT lens, it's basically that, but also they're white, right?
Yeah, it's that. Yes, and it's not even wealth. It's just you have white privilege. So cultural Marxism uses proletariat and bourgeois. Proletariat are the workers, and that's the enemy. So it's rich and poor. It's class. It's a class system. It's casting. But CRT uses white and black. So if you can pretty much replace, Figaro's got to get out. You can pretty much replace white and bourgeois and black and proletariat in all of this language, and you're going to get the Communist Manifesto. Okay. The fourth tenet. We're almost there. We're almost done.
Okay.
So 4 and 5.
I'm feeling educated right now. I really feel
good.
smarter.
So this is all connecting?
No, it is. I can clearly see the connection between CRT and Marxism, communism.
And before this, everybody knew what it was, and they knew it was teaching just because Black Lives Matter came out and on their website and said, "Oh, we're trained Marxists and we're going to abolish the family," and they started.
But we have 5 mansions. We're trained Marxists, but we have 5 mansions, and we raised $90 million in the past year, and none of that shit went to the victims' families. That's another thing that's crazy. That all the victims' families literally denounce BLM, and people are still donating to that shit. That pissed me off.
And it's absolutely disgusting. So the fourth tenet is the one that really drives me crazy because I love history so much. Come here, Figaro. I hear him.
Oh, he's so cute.
So it's the fact or their idea of storytelling versus counter storytelling. So in my research, the idea is that history is just a story. And so they can counter it with a counter story that echoes their truth. However, history is not just a story. So much of history is chronicled and corroborated evidence based, whether it's letters or documents or court records, like these accounts that are recorded in a time where there was no automatic backup system. So you had to tediously, meticulously write down with a quill, in ink or something. You just had to write it down as accurately as you could. And at the time, it was viewed as like a divine duty to do this. It wasn't like, I want to get the most clicks, so I'm going to say whatever I want. It was like you have a divine duty, like to God, to record accurately your history.
Mm-hmm.
They preferred fact to form. That's a George Washington quote, actually. So they preferred, being it factually didn't have to sound pretty, which is why they dropped the N-bomb. And, it wasn't pretty. It was pretty language, but at the same time, they spoke in a way that was relative to how they were living at the time. They spoke about slavery casually, that sort of thing. So the communist tenet, the next one is, to overthrow history. And this is what it is. Rewriting history is overthrowing it. And they do this with things that we know about, like that we factually know about. Like we know for a fact, like Thomas Jefferson, for instance, slave owner, founding father, president. We know he had slaves. We know he had about 600 slaves. We also know he was good to his slaves. We know this because there are records of his slaves would keep in journals and diaries his slaves would keep about what a good person he was, just inherently. And the whole time he had slaves, he fought with it because he knew it was wrong, and he fought against slavery. He tried to put it into the Declaration of Independence, slavery, but he knew that there wasn't enough support. There wasn't enough people who thought like that. So he didn't. It's actually the first draft of the Declaration. He has abolish slavery in it.
I didn't know that.
Yep, but he took it out because he knew there wasn't going to be any support, and they needed the French and they needed people to help when they were going to fight this eventual revolution, and there wasn't going to be enough. So it's something that he struggled with, having slaves. Also, something that people don't know about slaves. They just assume people just like got slaves and, whatever. But he inherited many of his slaves. And with the inheritance of the slaves were mortgages that came on the slaves. Mm-hmm. So he could sell the slaves to somebody he knew would be a really bad owner, or he could pay the mortgage off. But he died with mortgages on his slaves. The only slaves he was able to free were the ones that were related to him, whether it was him with Sally Hemings or his brother with Sally Hemings. I believe that the DNA test came up with Sally Hemings,
interesting.
One of his slaves that had children that were Jeffersons. I mean, not by name, but by blood.
No, right. I did know that part. My thing, I did want to touch on the erasure of history part, because I feel like critical race theory was going to be inevitable when we had people teaching lost cause history, or people, and like, I know like conservatives like to say, oh, like there was never ever like a whitewash in history, but there are people in the South who learned that the Civil War was just the war of Northern aggression, and that everyone treated their slaves like really nice, and they didn't have it that bad. So
there's actually, I mean, when I was a kid, I know that there were some teachings of the Civil War from some schools in the South that said that the South actually won, and I don't know the rest of it.
So I feel like this was kind of inevitable. When we have false history being taught by one side, we're going to have false history being taught by the other side to counter that.
Yeah.
What we need to do is meet somewhere in the middle. And I don't know. I want to ask you this as a libertarian or liberty leaning person. What do you think about the prospect of the government banning critical race theory, or banning just any type of education or any type of theory in education?
The federal government?
Let's start with states. Let's start with locally.
I believe the states have the right to do whatever the heck they want for the most part, as long as it doesn't directly violate any of the Bill of Rights.
Right.
So,
and then federally, you would disagree.
Absolutely.
But that's just because it's the federal, and you don't want the feds to do anything.
No.
Okay.
Every time the feds get their hands on something, they make it worse.
That is very, very true.
Commission or something, and then I don't know. They'll create a commission, and then they'll like launder money through it or something. I don't trust them at all. I don't want them to have their hands anywhere near it. I want government so small I can barely see it. Yeah,
I agree. I think locally, the school system should just decide what they want to teach. Honestly, I don't even support the banning of lost cause history. If y'all, the parents of your little school board in some buttfuck county in fucking Mississippi, get together and they're like, we want to teach our kids that the Civil War was unfair and we want to own our slaves. You know what? Fine. If y'all vote to do that, fine.
Yeah,
fine.
That you can school choice. If they were to trap the kids in the school and say, you can't choice out of here, then I have some issues with it.
Yeah, I would have a lot.
Then there'd be an issue with force, but at this point, what? There's nothing. So the fifth one, our final tenet. So it's the notion that whites have actually been the recipients of the civil rights legislation and not black people. So what
kind of point are they even? What does that mean? What does that mean? I've literally never heard anyone claim that before.
Isn't that bizarre? All right.
What does that mean?
In my research, the only thing I could really find on this that just kept being echoed, and like I said, earlier, that there was a lot of what you read about this stuff is fluff with a lot of emotions and a lot of adjectives and a lot of like anger. So they keep citing Brown versus the Board of Education. All right. And this was 1954, and it was the lifting of the separate but equal doctrine, right? Mm. So black education after that was lifted did not improve. So their argument is that white people must have benefited because the black education didn't improve. And this tenet is where they began to amplify equity over equality. So Brown versus the Board of Education gave them equal opportunity, which is equality, but it didn't give them an equal outcome. And that's equity. So that's where it starts to get like, oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And then they try to like overcompensate and say, well, we need to give more and more and actually take from white people because they're having a better outcome for whatever reason. They're having a better outcome. So let's take from white people and put it on the black people's plate.
Exactly. Yep. So the redistribution of wealth. Where have we heard that before? Yeah. See, it's
I wonder.
think. Yeah. So, I mean, cultural Marxism, it suggests like a class system, bourgeois versus proletariat, like I said. And there's like that, it's that picture from Pam in The Office. They're the same picture, like they're
Yeah,
exactly,
literally.
yeah. So that's what that is. So CRT is dressed up cultural Marxism, and it's infiltrating the classroom. Instead of class, it's race, and that's really cut and dry. So once you have a baseline understanding of CRT and the parallels, you kind of also start to see how the Chinese Communist Revolution, I almost say Communist Manifesto, of the Chinese Communist Revolution, and how their behaviors during that intersect with Antifa, Black Lives Matter, the government, the media, the universities, big tech, how it's all intertwined. You see the behaviors, especially if you've, read up on anything about the Chinese Communist Revolution. So some of the stuff that they did during the revolution, and it was all based on anything that wasn't communist had to go. Okay. Right. So they were tearing down statues and changing the names of the buildings to be politically correct for communism. All right. They were told to denounce their heritage and their history and to overthrow and destroy anything that was not communist. In our case, they're canceling anything they deem racist. So that's where that parallel is. They were encouraged to report their neighbors and their family, just as the kids nowadays were, even when it came to the pandemic,
Right.
Report your family if they're, being naughty,
disobeying the government.
Yeah. So CRT is a neo-Marxist framing of race that erects white supremacy as the societal superstructure, and it masks any efforts to reverse civil rights by claiming it's just a simple academic study about race and law, right? That's what it was. Mm-hmm. That's what we were told it was. Does any of this?
And that's why people are telling me, like, how can you not be for critical race theory? It's just, you're just being critical of racism. That's it. Like, if you take every single leftist ass name literally, then you're going to lose. I mean, it's the same thing with Antifa, like we talked about, but that's their trick. That's their truth. They like to make you, this word is so overused, but the left will literally gaslight you into thinking that you're racist, and to thinking that you're a bigot and crazy for not agreeing with their made up fucking definitions of the word. Yep, because exactly. I got in so much trouble like a couple weeks ago, and I supported this tweet. Tulsi Gabbard had tweeted out that Lori Lightfoot was perpetuating anti-white racism for saying that she will no longer take interview questions from white reporters because she wanted to give a platform to Black and brown people, or whatever the fuck. And I retweeted that, and I said, wow, Tulsi's the only Democrat, and honestly the only Republican that has the balls to say that you can be racist towards white people. Yeah. And all these motherfucking Black people were in my comments, like leftist ass, liberal, communist, Marxist Black people were in my comments calling me anti-Black, trying to gaslight me into thinking that I'm somehow anti-Black and racist against myself for thinking that you can be racist against white people. And I was like, what is the dictionary definition of the term racism? And it just means holding hatred or bigotry to somebody because of their race. It doesn't specify Black or white or any other type of race. Exactly. But they were giving me these Marxist ass definitions that they learned in whatever buttfuck ass school they went to, saying that, oh, racism is about the power structure and oppression and who has privilege and who historically colonized who. And even if you go by that dumb ass statement, every single race of people has been oppressed by another race at some point in time. So that definition is going to be ever changing anyways. But I hate falling into that trap. Now it's with critical race theory, saying that if you don't believe in this, you are literally racist, or if you don't believe in this, you're promoting whitewash history. There has to be a middle ground somewhere, right?
Everything is so polarized right now that you have to be as far to the right or as far to the left as you can, and that's not even the spectrum. The spectrum is libertarian to authoritarian. That's not even, the spectrum is not right and left. Okay. That's the illusion of choice. So your spectrum is, all right, are you going to be more fascism or more liberty? And you lean more liberty. You want, to be able to say the things that you want to say without having someone completely smear you,
Exactly.
I mean, calling someone a racist even 15 years ago was like a really like that was a serious.
And you have to have proof.
Yeah.
And you have to have like a genuine reason for calling somebody racist other than disagreeing on the definition of racism or disagreeing on who can actually be racist or not.
Mm-hmm. All right. So I have examples of what is being taught in schools, which school districts are
let's go over that.
I've got about 12 different examples of what's happening factually. All right. So how is this being taught in school, right? Because they're saying it's just critically looking at law and race. Like we're not mean. All right. So so my source for this is an investigative journalist named Christopher Rufo. He's been studying this. He like went in and really investigative journalists are so rare nowadays. So when you find one, like follow.
I've seen some of his stuff on Twitter.
Yeah, he's good. All right. And he's going to be diving into something else. I can't remember what he talked about it, but it'll probably be out in a couple months. All right. So in Seattle, teachers are told they are guilty of spirit murder against Black children. Teachers are told they must bankrupt their privilege and acknowledgement of their thieved inheritance. All right. This is wild, huh?
Can you define spirit murder for
Somebody tell me what spirit murder is, because I have no idea.
Okay, so that's not just me. Nobody else knows what the fuck that is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, spirit murder. It's like you're killing them. You're killing your students with spirit murder. All right.
Wow.
San Diego public schools accuse white teachers of being colonizers. They are told they are racist, and they're recommended that they go to anti-racist therapy. In Cupertino, am I saying that right? Cupertino, California. Third graders are forced to deconstruct their racial and sexual identities, then rank themselves by power and privilege. The 8-year-old children are then separated into the oppressors and the oppressed. This is fun. This is fun.
So this is officially this is officially part of critical race theory. Like, this is what they're labeling it as.
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make that clarification because I didn't know if this was like they're just teaching this or this is This is the name of the curriculum is CRT.
This is CRT. This is critical race theory. Yep, and they put it all through, and the school districts have to approve it, and the school boards have to approve it. When they go through, and they're approving this stuff.
From people who keep saying that race is a social construct, why do they think that white people are predispositioned to be racist? Why do they think that it's part of their biology, but like they're committing whatever the fuck spirit murder is, that by the crime of being born white, you are racist? Mm-hmm. How is that a social construct? You're basically saying that white people are just biologically racist at that point. Mm-hmm. That's hereditary.
Oh yeah, and some of it actually literally.
Oh Lord, let's get into
that. So in Springfield, Missouri, teachers are forced to locate themselves on something called an oppression matrix, where white hetero Protestant males are inherent oppressors, and they must atone for their covert white supremacy. Critical race theory.
Let's stop going after the KKK. Let's stop going after actual racists. Let's go after some middle-aged white dude that just wants to go home to his wife and kids and just call him a fucking white supremacist.
Telling me the racist, he's gonna get mad. How dare
I feel like once you start calling people who aren't racist or racist, they might just be gaslighting to thinking they're racist and just accept racism. They don't give a fuck about it anymore. If the term is so watered down to that, they're not going to give a fuck about racism.
Yeah, like the elderly gentlemen who fought in World War II get called Nazis. Like, what is wrong with you? All right. In Philadelphia, an elementary school forces 5th graders to celebrate Black communism and simulate a Black power rally. In this particular school, 87% of the students will fail to achieve basic literacy by graduation. So their priorities are Black power as opposed to
what is Black communism? I don't even know what the fuck that is.
No,
and I've gotten this comment before. I've gotten this comment before that you being like a Black capitalist is not going to save you from white supremacy. You need to join like Black communists because capitalism is inherently white supremacist. And I asked them how. Oh, because capitalism is built off the backs of slaves. I'm like, that is not how it's like you guys are purposely misunderstanding libertarian arguments. Libertarians do not advocate for you being able to own somebody else. That's not part of the free market. That's not part of capitalism. It's like they have never read anything about it. They just
They're just
I don't
told
know. They're ignorant.
what to
Yeah.
believe, and it's easy to parrot a talking point as opposed to actually research it and think critically about it. So
I
that's
mean, it sounds really snappy. I mean, anytime I go on Twitter, I see some tweet with like 100,000 likes, and it's like capitalism is racist, and there's like a million retweets. I'm like, y'all don't know how to prove
totally.
any
But
of
that's
this.
the whole
You
thing,
can't.
because you look at the tenants and it says, well, Black people don't have, like, capitalism hurts Black people, so you got to be a communist instead. And it goes for
Instead of, how about let's just deregulate the market that disproportionately affects minorities and impoverished people, and just let capitalism and the free market take its course. I don't understand. And it's like the people that are like, oh, the United States is a white supremacist KKK neo-Nazi government, but you want to give them more fucking power? Yep. Are you dumb?
It's like the Democrats who fight for this, they stay in power as long as people are oppressed. They don't want Black fathers back in the home. They don't want things like that. They need you to stay oppressed so that way they can keep their job. It's job security. They need to always be fighting for something. And when we have a deficiency right now, there's just not enough. There's a supply and demand problem with racism. So
I know that. I mean, look at Jussie Smollett. You have to make up claims of being attacked by Ku Klux Klan members to even get any fucking attention and get any fucking media attention. How many of those
have ever been true? It's terrible that people lie about that just because they've been so conditioned to think, okay, well, I'm going to be a somebody if I can validate that this happened.
It's funny because he was already a celebrity. Like, he was already an actor. I mean, maybe not a celebrity. I didn't know. I didn't know who he was before that all happened. But it's not like he was an unsuccessful guy.
Was in Mighty Ducks.
He was in Mighty Ducks. But yeah, it just it really baffles me. But that's so true, because I genuinely think that the government knows, and Democrats and progressives specifically know, that if you deregulate guns, if you deregulate businesses, if you deregulate drugs, you're going to see a large population of the Black men that are in prison right now be let out of prison, because that's a lot of the charges that they're in on: drug charges, gun charges. If you just say, hey, that's your Second Amendment right, that's your right to smoke weed, that's your right to grow weed, they will see a lot of Black fathers be put back in the homes. And if you de-incentivize single motherhood by increasing the size of the welfare state, you're going to see a lot of Black fathers being put back in the homes. But they love to solve problems that creates, that they created, because, like you said, it's fucking job security. They're just puppeteering everybody.
The divorce rate in Black families was lower than the divorce rate in white families.
They don't say that, because then everyone's going to be like, Josie once again is pro segregation.
You know me, I love LBJ. Love him.
It's true. When Black people could not rely on the government because the government was fucking racist against us, then Black people stuck together more. Black people had, more intact family structures more.
Yeah.
And then when the government comes in and fucks everything up, then they're like, oh, white people did this to you. No, we were doing fine. We were all right. Like, I cannot stress enough how much the government has fucked everything up. And I cannot stress enough how much it just baffles me to see people say the answer is more government.
More government, more taxes, more...
I just think people are
more government in our lives to regulate this. We need a commission to review this, and more government fixes nothing. When has more government ever helped us?
Literally never. Literally
the bigger government
never.
got, the more corrupt it got, because there was more room, and then they infiltrated everything. Like, there's just corrupt people in the FBI, the CIA. I mean, I think they're all corrupt to begin with anyway, but there's really bad people who are like, I see this bad stuff happening, I'm not going to do anything about it.
Exactly.
Not going to happen. Okay. The principal of East Side Community School in New York emailed parents telling them to subvert their white authority, become white traitors, and advocate for full white abolition. Okay.
That sounds a little genocide-y. I don't know how to feel about that.
Oh, we're going to get into that, too. Buffalo Public Schools teaches students that all white people perpetuate systemic racism, and forces kindergartners to watch a video about dead Black children, warning them about the racist police who might kill them at any moment. Yes, kindergarten, 5-year-olds.
That definitely seems like a bunch of 5-year-olds needs to be learning.
The Arizona Department of Education created an equity toolkit claiming, you sitting down? Babies show the first signs of racism at 3 months old and are full racists by 5. Arizona Department of Education looking at you. Babies. Racist infants.
I have no response to that. What are the metrics? How do you test if a 3-month-old baby is racist? How do you test if a 5-year-old is racist?
Really
5-year-olds don't know how to
words.
be racist.
Really loaded words and opinions, and people who go in with a guilty until innocent mindspec, when it comes to
the people who make this shit. I tweeted about this the other day because I don't know if you saw the National Geographic series. They did like a photo series of people like talking about racism in America. And there was this one guy, a white dude, middle-aged white dude, Black Lives Matter t-shirt. Can't make this shit up. His quote to Nat Geo was, "I am ashamed that I feel shocked when I see Black people being successful." And I'm like, you're projecting like a motherfucker because you think that all white people think like you. You think all white liberals think like you. And so you're proud to say in National Geographic with your name and your picture up there, "I'm racist." I am shocked to see when Black people are rich and successful and are doing good in life, because they literally, I think it's genuinely racist people who want to feel better about themselves, just projecting on all other white people that everybody is racist. So it's not just me. Every other white person is racist. And then they find out that they're by themselves. Most white people are not shocked when they see a Black person with a successful job or a successful degree. Like, they don't care. But it's such a common theme. I see these white liberals that are very, I don't know, they have this misconception, and sometimes they let it slip that they actually are truly racist, but they want to feel better about it because you're racist too. We're all racist.
Comes out real fast.
So they're accusing babies of being racist now because they have no other defense.
Racist babies. Yeah. Oh, it gets
I love
worse.
Racist babies.
Hold on, I don't want my phone to die. I don't want to lose you. Just a sec.
Okay.
There it is. All right. Can you see me still?
Yeah.
Right. Okay, good. Perfect. I had to put my low battery on. I realized I didn't have it on and I'm draining my battery. All right. The California Department of Education, buckle up. I don't even know if I can say this with a straight face.
Okay.
So they passed an ethnic studies curriculum calling for decolonization while students chant to the Aztec god of human sacrifice.
Why? Can you call that as cultural appropriation since you're part Native American? Why would they do that?
The solution, according to the ethnic studies author, is counter-genocide. So they're chanting to the Aztec god to say, "Come kill white people." I have no idea. No idea, but this is...
I'm not trying to be offensive here, and I'm not going to try to pretend like I know a lot about Aztec culture, but did they not, like, sacrifice, like, live people to... Okay, so they're talking about chanting, doing sacrificial chants to sacrifice white people in school.
Yes. Yep. In school. And
people see nothing wrong. People see nothing wrong with this.
No one sees anything wrong with this.
You know what? I 100% support any community's right to ban that shit. If they vote on it, if the parents and the school board vote on it, ban that shit, because that's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, and you're seeing parents speaking out against some of the stuff.
I have seen like some meetings of school board meetings where parents Black parents, white parents, they're all fucking mad about it. It's not just racist white people that are mad about
TRT. They're immigrants, they're Black people, they're white people, because what they're teaching is so radical. So the Overton window has shifted where this is supposed to be normal, but the way people think has not shifted. I mean, I live in Mass. So I live where I am surrounded by this people that think this way. But if
weird ass white people,
like my family down south, it's nothing like that. It's two different worlds. It really is. So yeah, that's people are like this, but it's very few people that are actually like this, but it's projected at us like everyone thinks like this, when really maybe 20%, and we all have to conform to this, because democracy.
I honestly feel like 20% is very high. And if that's true, I'm scared. I'm legitimately scared of these people.
I'm thinking statistically with the Overton window, because it shifted into radical and unthinkable, and that's 20%.
That's true. The past 4 years have done something to white liberals that just cannot be undone. I don't know where they get this kind of self-righteous feeling from, that they have to be the saviors of Black people or saviors of minority in general, when nobody wants that. I will never beg white people or Democrats to come save me from other white people. I don't feel attacked by white people. I don't feel like white people or white supremacy is the biggest threat to America. I see, like, how many white supremacists are there even?
Mm-hmm.
One out of every million. I don't know the numbers, but it just can't be that common to the point where we're freaking out about it all the fucking time.
Mm-hmm.
And we're assigning bad things that happen to Black people all the time, just a one size fits all answer of white supremacy. And I'm just like, maybe the issue with police is not that they're all neo-Nazis, because
Mm-hmm.
white people are victims of police brutality too. Unarmed white people are shot at, I believe, in higher rates than unarmed Black people are being shot.
They are.
The
So
problem is the state.
About 12 Black unarmed men are shot a year, and 30 white unarmed men are shot a year. That's so we don't hear about any of that. So when it happens to the Black community, it's like it's only happening.
It's racism, and it's only happening to Black people. But it's because they don't want you to realize that the problem is the state, and the problem is the government. Because if we knew that, then it would just be all over for them. They would be out of a fucking job.
Yep.
And I'm one of the people that I've been called anti-Black, and I've been criticized by like Black Marxists or even white Marxists who are, self-deprecating, think they're racist, whatever, by pointing out white victims of police brutality. I'm from Maryland. I'm not so far from Duncan Lemp's neighborhood. I actually live very close to where he was shot and killed while he was asleep, unarmed, in bed with his pregnant girlfriend.
Yep.
And that did not make the news. And it was crazy because it actually happened within like 48 hours of Breonna Taylor being murdered last year. 2 cases, both unarmed, both asleep, very, very similar cases.
Were they both no-knock warrant?
Duncan Lump's was, yeah, they both were no-knock. But Duncan Lump had no media time. His family is still grasping at straws here. Montgomery County Police never released the body cam footage to the public. Like, it was just, and we have bills named after Breonna Taylor, which is great because that shit should never happen.
Yep.
But this shit is happening to white people too, and it's happening to white men too, and no one's talking about it. And it pisses me off because for people who don't identify with, a lot of people don't feel bad for white people. I think that's like it's such a stupid thing, but a lot of people are just like, they just assume all white people have white privilege, so they don't feel bad for, white people when bad things happen to them. But for me, it hits close to home. Like, this could have been me. It could have been my brother. It could have been my parents. I live here. Montgomery County Police rules my life currently. They have no accountability here. And because I am Black and because I'm a woman, I can't say that because that's anti-Black. I can't point out that the problem is the state. I can't point out that not all white people have privilege over me.
Yeah. No, you're definitely, the worst I've gotten, I've been called a colonizer, and I'm like, I'm
that's just whip out your ancestry, like DNA results.
Yeah. Like, it's not even like I can whip out like, my actual like, I know the people, I could be like, yep, here's, this person and that person, like I can find it on a tree, as opposed to people like, oh, you must have done the DNA. I'm like, I would never give the government my DNA. Like,
that's true. My mom got me one of those tests for Christmas last year, and I haven't done it yet because I'm just like, what am I gonna find out that I don't already know?
It's great that they find like cold cases and stuff now, like, and they're able to
the one thing I would like to know is, like, I have no idea like where in Africa my family is from, because that little old thing called slavery or whatever. But at the end of the day, it's like, even if I found out, it's like, of course it's gonna be somewhere in the West African part. If I'm like Nigerian or Ghanaian or whatever the fuck, like, what is that going to change in my life? Now the government has my DNA, so I just I don't know. I don't. Really feel like caring about it.
Interesting. It would be interesting to see that. I know which tribes that come from. I know I derive right from Pocahontas, and you do too.
Yeah, we're cut. Oh yeah, I don't even talk about that because people always think it's like a troll. But my grandfather on my mom's side, it's funny because I'm related to Pocahontas on my white side, not even my Black side, so I'm not even like fully white on that side either. But yeah, my grandfather did a lot of genealogy before he died, and he was really into it. And I'm related to her first cousin, her descendants. So not directly, not direct descendant of Pocahontas, but her, because on that family, her first cousin descendants married into. So I'm also related to Andrew Jackson and Pocahontas on the same side of the family, which is just so funny because the whole like Trail of Tears, genocide, all that.
It all intersects. Yeah. No, I'm directly from Pocahontas. I think she's my 13th great grandmother. No, 12th. Either 12th. She's either my 12th or my 13th. I can't remember now. I have it written down somewhere, but it's really cool. It came like right to that, and I actually found it because the first thing I found was the gravestone of Thomas Rolfe and Jane Rolfe. I found their gravestones. I'm like, hold on, I've heard those names before, and then I found her. You know, and it was really like incredible to like have that happen, you know.
That's crazy. And you know how many people I come across that say they're married to Pocahontas? I'm like, I feel like there's a lot of us out here.
Yeah, about 3% of the country is. There's about 3% of the country is related to directly in some direct aspect to Pocahontas. Yeah, 3%.
Really? Because like I'm like trying to tell people I'm not bullshitting because like I have the genealogy, like I don't have it on my hand, but I've seen it. Like I have the report.
Yep.
Met like 3 other people besides you on Twitter that have also said they're like related to I was related to Pocahontas, and I didn't believe it at first, but I did hear that statistic before that like there's a good
there is actually
of people
a
that are
anyways of Twitter that are like Pocahontas Twitter people, but they call her Motoika because that was her her tribal name. That was
I didn't know
like
that.
something like
I'm a fake Pocahontas. I'm a fake Pocahontas descendant. I don't know anything about it.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I'm really interested, and I knew that and stuff. But they were like, they found me, and they were like trying to like quiz me all about Pocahontas, and I wasn't allowed to call her Pocahontas, and it was just the most bizarre experience of my life on Twitter ever. Like these people who like came after me about being related to her because of, you know, because I look white.
What the fuck?
I'm like, I mean, I do have 2 other, you know, tribes mixed in there, but that is 12 generations away, you know, like, or whatever, like.
Yeah, I don't know. Especially when it comes to people like Native Americans and Black people too, to a degree. If you're saying like someone looks white, I'm like, you're just ignoring the history of a lot of interracial relationships, consensually and non-consensually. There was a lot of rape back then. Like that, it's so funny how people call you a colonizer when Native Americans actually got colonized. Like it's such a weird. It's almost like taking away someone's history and you're ignoring it.
And the reason they called me that, these specific people, were because I was explaining different laws to them, and the fact that I was explaining them made them, you know, assume I was endorsing them because I was admitting their existence. And that's a big problem right now, is talking about facts. You're not allowed to talk about unpopular facts, or we're going to say that you endorse them. And that's another kind of one of the skews of social justice right now.
Well, that's how it goes. But we're coming up an hour, and before we go, I wanted to get your take on like the future of the liberty movement, because that's like what I told everyone we were talking about, and then we talked about critical race theory the entire time, which is great because I feel educated. I feel like my audience was educated. I'm really happy you brought that lesson to us.
Thank you.
But yeah. So you're not a member of the LP.
No.
Where do you see the libertarian movement going? Is it possible to get LP people elected? Is it more? Is it more practical to try to get GOP somewhere in the middle? I don't know what you think about it, though.
Like what Thomas Massey said, is there's a reason that every libertarian in Congress has an R next to their name. The Libertarian Party is not going to amount to anything until there's a 4th party. We can't have a 3-party system. It's got to be a 4th party system. It's because a lot of liberty people pull more from the right than they do from the left. And so it does, in fact, split the vote, which is something people hate to hear, but that does happen. You're pulling more people from Republicans than from Democrats when you're a libertarian. So if there was a socialist that ran, a Democrat, a socialist, a libertarian, and a Republican, a 4-party system, there's a chance that we could elect a libertarian. Yeah.
Interesting. I haven't heard anyone say that they wanted a 4-party system, but I obviously the duopoly is too strong. The third party's not working right now.
In order to, you have to get a 3rd party has to get this. All happened after Ross Perot, because they realized he actually had a good chance, and he was not establishment. Donald Trump was not establishment either. He was not supposed to happen.
No, he clearly was not supposed to happen.
Exactly. So they thought, like, I mean, I think Hillary Clinton called Donald Trump a puppet candidate or something. Like she really didn't believe he was going to get elected.
As if she wasn't a fucking public candidate.
Yeah, she's an establishment. So Ross Perot was an establishment. He almost got elected. So they went in and they changed the rules for third parties. So now if the Libertarians want to debate, they have to get 15% approval ratings in corporate media. Who owns corporate media? So it's a lost cause.
Right.
That's what I feel. It's very unpopular. I'll probably get booed for it, but it's not going to happen.
How do you think about locally though? Because I do see a lot of.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, good. I did want to ask you to clarify that because like the LP party locally in some areas, it's like doing great. I would love to see that expand. But for now, I'm not. I don't think I'm ready to register as an LP member. But I'm also not a Republican. I find joining a large party like that, it's almost embarrassing because it just appeals to the lowest common denominator of people, and it's like, wow, do I really agree with that much or want to be cool with that many people, 150 million people?
Yeah.
However many people are in the party.
Yeah, you probably don't think
I honestly feel like I would feel duped.
You probably don't think like all of them, and it's a spectrum, and it's
and there's just a lot of things that Republicans, a lot of their priorities are just kind of fucked up.
Yeah, I believe that the Libertarians, in order to yeah, sorry, there was a delay. I'm sorry, I talked over you.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, I feel like the Libertarians have to infiltrate the GOP like Thomas Massey did, like Justin Amash did, until he, actually withdrew and changed his affiliation, like Rand Paul did, Mike Lee did. There's Libertarians in Congress. They're just under GOP because that's how you get elected.
I would 100% support the infiltration of the Republican Party. Honestly, they deserve to get infiltrated at this point.
And they look at the socialists infiltrated the Democrats, and it was successful. Then we got to take, because socialists are dumb, but they are smart. They are good marketers. There's a lot that they do that we got to learn from. And one of those things is getting people elected on a national scale. And how they did that was by calling themselves Democrats and going for it. And that's how we're going to get peace. We're not going to get a third party. We're going to get peace that way. It's not going to happen.
Should we just do that? Should I just be a Republican?
You can be a Republican, but caucus with the Liberty, the Liberty people,
yeah,
be a Republican.
I was just in Nebraska last week. I went to a Nebraska Republican Liberty Caucus meeting.
Yeah, I saw that.
I was like shocked. Like they weren't like fedora wearing fucking weirdos. They were like just like regular Republicans, but they were talking about like drug legalization and abolishing like the postal service and shit. I was like, this is so dope.
You found your Thomas Massey's.
I was like, this is so dope. Let me answer this.
Ron Paul was a Republican.
That's true. And the LP loves him, and he's a lifetime member of the LP, but like look where he actually got elected to Congress in. So
Republican. So there's a reason all that happens, and I think we learn from our history.
You don't even ask me to pronounce that.
What does that say? I can't even read it. Have you
say coalition governments in Europe with 5 parties. He has a video, but I'll look it up. I haven't heard of this particular YouTuber, and I'm not going to attempt to pronounce his name, but I will look it up.
Hey, Sarah.
Olivia Chair of LP Georgia. I told him why I haven't joined the party. I will look it up and check it out. Thank you. So Bishop Republicanism. I followed him for like 5 minutes, and then I said something negative about. I can put the link in the comments, but I don't like Ron DeSantis at all. I think he's a statist, and I know everyone is like, oh well, he was still going to lockdowns. I don't want to settle for somebody who was just going to lockdowns, who supports sending billions of dollars to Israel every year, supports the drug war, and has just frankly a really bad track record with the First Amendment and free speech. Like I don't support that at all, and I said that. And then
I thought you wrote an article.
Yeah, and then this dude said I don't care about liberty, so I was like, okay, whatever. I'm sorry, I'm a First Amendment absolutist. I wrote a whole article about it. I'm very passionate about it. I cannot stomach voting for somebody, even if they do have like the 2024 nomination. I'm not going to vote for a statist. I can't. I can't, because I just feel like if you let the Republicans chip away at your rights even just a little bit, like even the Trump bump stock thing, I was really pissed about that. And I just feel like if you just let the Republicans chip away your free speech, chip away at your freedoms, even if they were good in this one good thing, like being good on lockdowns. That's really good, especially last year. I mean,
Even Charlie
that was a
Baker
major.
was good at them, like at to a point. I mean,
Yeah,
it didn't go the way of New York and California.
I just feel like letting the Republicans chip away at your rights is going to land you in the same place as letting the Democrats chip away at your rights. So I can't stomach that at all.
Compromise your morals on that. I think why he's the way he is, it's being elected. So you do the Overton window for him is like, here's my common sense and all my liberty stuff. He's like, but I still got to be Republican on some things.
He is like ultra fucking Republican on that shit, though.
Exactly. And the same thing with the South Dakota governor, Kristi Noem. You know, she's good. And then guns. Oh my God. Or weed. Oh my God. You know, it's like, okay. Like, and so it's like they do all this really great liberty stuff that you can get behind and support. And then they're all of a sudden remind you they're a Republican. And you're like, oh.
Yeah. She also tried to ban BDS in her state. And I was like, bro, I 100% support the right for anyone to do business with or boycott whoever they want to do, even if it's a foreign nation, even if it's an allied nation. You know, it's just, I love this comment, Zach. Thank you. Virgin Reagan Republicanism versus Chad Rondo Republicanism. fuck Reagan. Fuck the Mulford Act. Fuck gun control. Hey, Josie. Republicans are just Democrats driving the speed limit. I love that. Is that that's like that variation, like that Michael Malice quote, I think. That's good.
Yeah, that's a good quote.
But do you have anything to leave us with? What's your libertarian that includes critical race theory? How can we continue to advance liberty, whether that be in the Republican Party or the Libertarian Party?
What was that? How do we continue to advance it?
Yeah.
We gotta win elections. Sorry, it froze.
Okay, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
All right. So one big thing to do is win elections. When it comes to us on Twitter, it's you know, like what Clint was talking about with the unity. You got to try to talk to the ANCAPs and the minarchists. Got to get together and try to talk more. You know, disassociate if they're awful people, but otherwise just try to spread ideas, you know, because we're two parties. The libertarians are two parties right now. And that's even worse. That's even a less chance of ever winning an election is by being, you know, having your party disjointed. And the Republicans have the same issue. They're very disjointed right now. But, you know, like you look at the Democrats, another thing to learn from them, they all vote exactly as they're told to, you know, like they do what they're told, which sucks, but you know, they're united.
And if you're anti-establishment, if you're Tulsi, you're out of the party. They don't fucking want you.
Exactly. So I mean, they're awful, they're terrible. I don't like them.
But they have a great strategy.
They have a great strategy.
Fantastic strategy.
No, they unite. They do not. And the only place they're having trouble is in the Senate with Manchin because he is in a Republican state. And if they know it too, they have to take losses with him because if a Republican gets in there, they're never going to get a Democrat in there again. So
exactly.
He does what he has to do to stay elected, and that's big with guns. No gun control stuff is going to happen in that state because of him. It's not going to happen. He's the most powerful person in Congress when it comes to gun control because, you know, he says no, or even Sinema says no, and Kamala.
Love her.
Oh yeah, she's great.
She's hot. Anyways,
she is, and she's fun. I've seen her like.
Yeah, I like her little outfit. Yeah. Honestly, I love how the Democrats got so mad at that. They're like, she doesn't care about poor people. And I was like, haha, she's cute.
No, she's just cute. She's just cuter than you, and you're mad.
Yeah, I feel like that's why 99% of the people I have that hate me on Twitter, they're like mad that I'm cuter than them. So like, fuck you.
Yeah, I might have. Yeah, well, you know, when they attack your looks, that usually says.
I know. Like, why is that the only thing? Like, 99% of the time, it's either like you're a coon, you're a sellout, or like you're fat and your hair looks bad. I'm like, first of all, no, it doesn't. Second of all, like literally, I'm down to argue with people on my channel. Multiple times I've DM'd people and been like, would you like to argue or debate or have a discussion about this on my channel? And they're always like, no. And also, you're fat. And I'm like.
Yeah, I know, like if they say anything about like they come after like my cheekbones and stuff.
I first of all, that's straight up jealousy. Like, why would you pick like one of your best features and be like, oh, you're too skinny, you have prominent cheekbones?
Yep.
People are literally getting surgery to have prominent cheekbones. So
I actually was stopped as a child with my mom, and the woman was just like, oh my God. She's like, I paid so much money to have cheekbones like yours, little girl. And I was just like, I didn't know what I looked like. I had no like self-awareness.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? Like, and I was maybe 10, and my mom's just like, thank you. And like moves me away. But, it stayed with me. It was very bizarre. But yeah, that's the thing. They pick something to go after that they think you're going to take personally, and they're going to be like offended by it. So they go through things, with me, it was like, they'll go from anything from my cat to my face to my
Your
pies,
pies.
my kids. So they'll find what's gonna like get inside you and bother you, because the goal is to get a reaction, and then they get attention, and then they become a hero amongst the their leaders within their group. They're not individuals, they really are a group of people.
And then they get the reaction they want. They get fucking blockchained. Then they're like, Josie's not about liberty, she's not about unity, she fucking blockchained me.
Yep.
I'm like, I saw the comments talking shit about your kid. I saw the comments talking shit about your fucking cat and your fucking pies and your cheekbones and your collarbones.
Why do I have to? I don't want to associate with you. You're a bad person. Like,
yeah. And I saw a couple people had valid questions and comments like, oh, why don't you just mute them? And I saw you respond like, then they don't deserve the access to my page. They don't deserve to see what I post.
Problem. Like, why would I mute them if they're just going to go on my page and like, pull my pictures of my cat or my pies or my kid, like, why would that does nothing. Like, you need to set a hard boundary, and boundaries are libertarian as fuck. Like boundaries are libertarian. This is property rights. This is self-ownership. This is everything. But there is just some rumor within the libertarian facet that, oh my God, if you put up a boundary, this is like, you're anti me. You don't want any.
Yeah. My favorite is when people say that blocking people is anti-free speech. I'm like, that quite literally is not
anti-free. Not the government. You can still talk. I just don't want to hear it. You're not entitled. You don't have a right to me.
That's the same thing as kicking somebody out of your house. Like, I don't want to talk to you in my house. Like, leave.
Exactly.
It's my house.
No qualms blocking anybody. I used to be like, I'll just mute them. I had this rule where I would mute the pedos, and I would mute the people who were just irredeemable, and or block them. I mean, I just the pedos,
right,
and the awful people. But it came to a point where I was like, I know where to find these awful people, but I don't know who's good and who's bad. I'm just gonna, when you have a bowl of poison Skittles, you dump out the whole, if you got like 5 poison Skittles in your bowl of Skittles, you're not taking chances. You're just gonna dump it all. So I dumped my bowl of Skittles out, and they're gone, and it's all free, and it's all happy, and it's been so positive. Like, I mean, and the thing is, these people had so little influence, the ones I had to chain block, that I chain blocked 3 of them, and they were gone. That's it. That's how.
And it's funny because I ended up not even needing to do a chain block on these people, because I DM'd Josie like probably 2 weeks ago, because it's honestly funny looking back on it, but it really pissed me off at the time. It was exactly when I called out the anti-white racism, and a bunch of like leftist Black people got mad about me. And it wasn't even strictly leftist Black people. It was I don't know if you've heard of the Foundational Black Americans, but it's Tariq Nasheed. Tariq Nasheed made the organization Foundational Black Americans, and a lot of his fanboys came out to me because he's very quick to call somebody anti-Black or a white supremacist, even if they are Black. And so they were all calling me a white supremacist, and they were making these memes with me. They posted this one meme. It was a picture of me and Kimberly Klasick, and they were like, look at these bed wenches. And for those who don't know, bed wench is a Black woman who has a white husband or sleeps with white men.
God.
And Kimberly, I think she's divorced now, but her daughter is half white. I'm half white. They're basically just trying to say that we were just like coons, like a female version of Uncle Tom is a bed wench. And that post got like 100 likes. So I was like panicking. I was like, I DM'd Josie. I was like, how do I do a blockchain? Like, I don't want to do this. And I was
like, here's how you do it, girl. I got you. Like, protect yourself. And these people do not have you. They don't deserve access to you. Like that.
Like, I never heard from them ever again.
Explain it back to them. Like, you are not entitled to the right to me. What are you a master? Like, do you own me? No. You don't.
Yeah, and they're posting the screenshots like, oh, she blocked me. Yeah. She blocked me. I'm like, yeah, you made a meme call me a bed wench, bro. You made a meme call me a bed wench. I blocked you.
Yeah, and like, you got to watch your language too, because some people be like, I didn't even do anything wrong. All I did was say that I didn't, and then they like have some like elaborate thing with all the adjectives because they have to convince you that, they didn't. I didn't do anything wrong. It's like, no, you did. And you were probably a pretty terrible person,
Yeah. I'm very lenient with the block button.
Defended a terrible person, or you were just an accident. Just message me and I'll fix it. You know, like those are the people.
That's the thing I saw, because you were very open to unblocking people,
Oh,
but
yeah,
they were
I
saying,
blocked
"Oh, she
hundreds.
blocked me. She's a horrible person. She's a bitch." And then of course you're not going to unblock them after that.
Yeah,
So
I'd see
what the
people
fuck?
like, oh, she blocked me, and so I'd have to do a little scan of their page, and I'd be like, oh, he called me. Yeah, I guess Scott, you're not getting unblocked. You know, it's
Yeah,
like,
what the
had you
fuck?
just reached out and like a few people were like, hey, could you just have Josie unblock me? It was an accident. Like, I think I got caught in the blockchain. I'm like, yeah, sure, of course, you know. And I unblocked hundreds of people, and I was so happy,
Yeah.
especially on this podcast. Yeah, it was
I
great.
was prepared for people to come for me for having you on, but I had like one comment and I was just like, whatever. Like, I honestly, I was
think you
preparing
surround
for it
yourself with
because
pretty.
I saw Clint got like the brunt of a lot of
Well, he's
the
an ANCAP, and a lot
negativity.
of them don't like me, and so they don't
Right.
get to talk to me. When he had a big problem with that, as he should, you know, like,
Right.
don't fucking tell me who I can and can't talk to. Like, and he
I
kind
hate
of
that
was
shit.
seeing, and he had to actually block a few people because he was getting the same kind of shit that I had to block people over, the really bad, awful, like incessant, obsessive, mean, nasty stuff that I was like, yeah, this is not healthy. Like, I think you might be mentally ill, you know, like there's and he was starting to get some of that, and he had to block too. And then everyone got mad that he blocked, and like someone said, I bet Josie logged in as him and blocked for him. And I'm just, come
Bruh.
on,
Of
dude. Like,
course.
yeah,
They're
Josie
just obsessed
never
with you at that
blocked me.
point.
Josie must have did it. Like, oh, let's start that rumor.
Honestly, it really baffles me how people can disconnect like a face on the screen or a username from a real person. And I
Mhm.
hate to use the term like influencers. I don't know what else to call people with like a large following.
Yeah.
But they don't think that we're like real people with like real feelings. Like if I see a meme where you're calling me like horrible things, like yes, it's gonna cause me to be emotional. I'm
Yeah.
not happy to see that. I don't know. And they act like you're such a pussy for blocking people. And it's like,
No,
I don't
it's
know.
like I don't need that in my
You're
life.
bullying somebody. You're
Yeah.
either way, no matter how many followers you have, you're bullying somebody. So what the fuck?
And they came after when I lost my page. It was really bad when my page,
Mhm.
because it's like all of the parameters, all of the boundaries that I'd set over 3 years to keep. A lot of these people had already been blocked, like
Right.
that I had to reblock. They were already
Mhm.
blocked because they were just not
So the
good
floodgates
people.
just open when you made
The
your new
floodgates
account and nobody
opened,
was
and
blocked.
oh my gosh, and I don't hold myself to any high regard, where because when I blockchained, I had maybe 1,000 followers, maybe, and I didn't say anything until after I did it. And then the screenshots started, and there was just hundreds of them, like as some sort of like
A trophy.
a trophy of me blocking them. And I'm like, how high of a regard do you hold me? Like, I'm just some person on the internet that doesn't want to associate with you, and you're bragging about it. Like,
Honestly, yeah, that's how I feel when somebody says something horrible to me and then I see them the next day posting a screenshot. Oh, I got her to block me. Like, congrats.
yeah, I actually
Congrats.
for a while my header was TRHL blocked you.
I love honestly.
Yeah, you got to embrace
Next
it.
time I come under fire, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna steal that idea.
Yeah, because they can see. I think they can see your header. I can't remember now, but it's got the
I think
block in
yeah,
there.
I think they can.
Yeah, it's fun. You just got to embrace it, and you just got to not take anything personally. And that's like one of the tenets that I practice. Like, I know exactly who I am. I know what I've done. I know what I haven't done. And, you hear it, and you just got to, like, this is their dream. This is their life. This is how, this is their life. This is how they view what's happening to them. And it has nothing to do with you. It has
Mhm.
everything to do with their perceptions, their domestication, their education, how they're going to project what they see onto you, make it about you, when it has nothing to do with you at all. And it's something you got to practice. It's something because you have a lot of domestication and education to undo to order to get to this point, to be able to be like, all right, this has nothing to do with me, because we're taught to take things personally. And you just can't, especially with social media, especially with a big page, you just got to not. Like, it's hard to do, but it takes work. But eventually you get to a point and you're just so detached from it, and you're like, what did they say? And it becomes like funny, but it's
Yeah.
hard sometimes when they, really, sometimes they catch you with your guard down, and like they've caught me before with my guard down, and it's been hard. But,
So but before I let
oh, it
everyone go and
froze.
enjoy their night, remind people where I'll actually it's okay, sorry, am I back?
Okay, you're back. Yeah,
Can
gotcha.
you hear me?
Yep.
Am I frozen? Okay. Tell everyone where they can find you on Twitter now that you've made a new one.
Yes, you can find me at official TRHL.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for the comments. Thank you Josie so much for making your comeback and letting me be part of your podcast live stream comeback. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. It's been a lot of fun.
I've like been a fan of yours for a long time. Like before you followed me on your old account, I followed you for like, I don't know, like 2 years or something. Like I really liked
remember watching you early on and saying she is gonna be big. And I think I might
that's
even
embarrassing.
commented like
I hate when people are like, oh, I remember this post.
Saw
like,
it. I saw like how you were, it was reminding me of me. I saw how you were being like, how people were receiving you and your personality and your charisma and the way that you engage with people. And I'm like, she's gonna be something. And this is, and I'm here for it.
Oh my God, I'm fangirling. Well,
no, I was really proud of you. Yeah, I definitely.
Oh, thank you. I'm proud of you too, because I'm proud of the way you like regained your fan base and your followers so fast. Like you have like a core group. What are you up to, like 12,000, 13,000 now?
I think I might be at 15,000 by the time we get off.
15,000 people in just a few weeks. I mean, that's like a core fan base that will follow you to different platforms. So that's a really good thing to have.
Amazing. I have nothing but just amazing things, especially the people who have just been with me the entire time. Some people like have been with me since day one and they're still here. And it's it just means the world to me to like, it's just that people like this exist and that they want to hear your voice. And, you know, it's validating and it's great that it's good to reflect and know that people like this are in the world. I just have nothing bad to say about the people who follow me at all. They're just wonderful.
I love that. Well, again, thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone in the chat. Thank you for the super chats and the questions and the comments and for watching. Have a great rest of your night. And thank you so much, Josie.